Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. After a very, very grindy, what I would call fourth act, or third act, I suppose it would be. I guess if the Barnett College was a full act in itself, and Venice, with its kind of grindiness of the cave system, was the second act, then the combination of the Nazi castle plus also getting on the blimp and getting through all the border crossings or the checkpoints and flying a plane. If you do the plane flying section, well, you actually have to do the plane flying section at least a little bit. It, a lot goes on, certainly, but actually, I would say if you had just watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, there most definitely were more scenes in the movie. There was, oh, easily 100 times more dialogue and conversation happening in the movie. Here's a great example of that. You have two characters talking to each other, and Indiana Jones can't even do anything to interact with the two. There's like not even, you can look at markets, but you can't talk to them. I don't see anything special about here. So you could try to walk out of here. We can't leave. We still have to get the grail, get the girl, and not fall in the lava pit. Just spoiling the movie, as it were. Um, so we've got a sign over here, and then we've got the temple, which is a pretty unimpressive version of the temple, uh, in fact. And yeah, we just have to play out the movie as it were. When, in all logic, it says, "If the if thou thinkest life is but a game, be warned. Beyond this point, thou cannot be saved." So, so this is a hint that you could easily miss that you can't save the game past this point, which, in all fairness, I am not sure I actually believe. Because with the Scum VM emulator, it might very well be that you could still save the game. But let's just go ahead and assume that's the case, and let's just go ahead and walk to the temple. Interestingly, I don't think we ever used turn on or turn off as an ability, so it would have been fairly easy for them to get those. Hey, you two, every moment counts, it says. And there you have a bloody head. This game, oddly, like, yep, this is the place, uh, is very gory, is very much full of Nazi imagery. It would be rated M for mature if there was an ESRB rating PC games at the time, which I don't think there really was. And yeah, you wouldn't really expect that from this level of graphics. You would have thought, oh, this is much closer to the Lego Indiana Jones games, and the Indiana Jones movies in general are probably closer to PG than PG-13. I believe these movies, when they were released, were rated PG because there was no PG-13 at the point. But even at that point, even our movies nowadays have just massive amounts of violence and avoid getting adult only ratings by not actually showing any blood or gore and kind of fictionalizing actual possible harm that can happen to people. So you'll hear gunshots and you'll see people fall down, but you won't see bullet holes and you won't see anything, um, any blood. So here we can see statues and lions. Ah, Indiana Jones, you're just in time. It seems I've run out of volunteers. Donovan, Donovan, Donovan. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that could convince me to get the Grail for your purposes. If you just left, there would have been no problem. And this was except maybe that I thought you'd see it my way. The only thing that can save your father now is the healing power of the Grail, which nobody said that it healed at all. I suggest you hurry, Dr. Jones. Junior, remember my diary, the 3 trials. Hang on, Dad. I'll be back as fast as I can. Elsa is uh, completely silent there. Here we can see you would totally be able to save with the ScumVM emulator, and one assumes, yep, you can load. So the original game wouldn't have let you saved. Not that you really are going to need to save if you've seen the movie. Now, if you hadn't seen the movie, you're probably very, very confused here. And looking at like the Grail Diary doesn't help. There's a bit of a problem also in the fact that this is kind of a pixel hunt type thing. You can see there's like one slight black pixel here. And so we have this and nothing else. Kneel. So I clicked on that dot and then you kneeled as a penitent man would, and then you roll. I'm through. And in the movie, he hooks a rope around the gear that stops that mechanism. In Old English, Jehovah is spelled with a J, Jehova. Of course, since this isn't spoken out loud, that doesn't change much. Jehova. Oops. And see, it just resets you back when you die. Back in a jiffy. This could be a very short experience. But I didn't click on the ground, so I get my head chopped off. But yeah, as the way this story is played out, there really is no reason to actually play to go forward. Had they just all left, there's a high chance the Nazis would have never gotten the Grail. There was never an indication that the Grail healed anybody. Anyways, if it does give an immortal life, there's clearly some catch because nobody else ever used it. Jehova. And I thought that was you. So then you have to go, I guess, this way and click on J and then V. So it's the letters, but it's not spelling Jehovah. Instead, just making it work. See if I go this way and then this way and then this way and this and this. Go a little diagonal this way and this way. There's very little reason here to mess up as long as you've got it. Like, did I step on every single J and E and H and O and V and A? No. Unfortunately, we may finish this game fairly quickly. And in this case, for sanity's sake, let's just make another save. I think the trick is to simply, Indy, hurry up, your father's getting worse. I know, Marcus, I'm hurrying. The trick is to, I think, walk forward before that conversation happens. If you wait, then you get moved out of the way see. It just, when he turns around, that slightly changes his path, and that's the end of him. And then we've got holy water and the tunnel. You feel like there'd be more gameplay, not the same amount or less for a video game, because this is really short. Boy, I'm thirsty. I knew you would come. Who are you? I am the last of the 3 brothers who swore the oath to find the Grail and guard it. That was 700 years ago. You're strangely dressed for a knight. Me? I'm no knight. What do you mean? It's no matter. You proved your worthiness by passing the trials. The honor of guarding the Grail is yours. It'd be funny if he had took that up. But you don't understand. My father's wounded here in the temple. I've got to find the Grail or he'll die. Very well. I see your intentions are pure. Choose. So let's go ahead and make a save file here, just for the fun of it. So, from what I've heard, the Grail is actually closer to a serving platter more than a actual cup or bowl. This is the right one. Any of the others are the wrong one. They don't really move. The wooden cup carved with holy symbols, large ceramic drinking cup. We have olive wooden cup on a silver tray, shell pewter bowl with engraving, ceramic drinking cup, silver bowl carved with spells of blessing, brass chalice inscribed in Greek, plain metal cup, ceramic bowl with unknown writing, plain shallow bronze vessel, pewter chalice in the Aramaic. Now remember, we also saw that there was a picture of the Grail, and the depiction of the Grail really was closer to this than this. So there's definitely some weirdness there. There is also interesting that you can't talk to the knight. Weirdness in the fact that they would have had to have had at least a preliminary script from the now this is the cup of a carpenter. Like, it's a little weird that they wouldn't have had the characters simply say those lines of dialogue just in line with that. Use Grail with holy water. I better make sure this is the right one. And here we chose the wrong one, so we'll get the gory ending. And they zoom in for this. You hear the zombie that explodes, and then your head falls in the water. He chose poorly. But yeah, they just really want to waste your time on this and make you potentially have to save scum a whole bunch. Yeah. Text doesn't take up that much space. Even if you're making a game that is being released on 3 floppy disks, it would have been nothing really to put more text into the game. Timing the text with the scum engine takes time, and so there would have been development time there. And in all fairness, it probably was the equivalent of $7 to $12 per floppy disk. So if they had to add a 4th floppy disk, that probably would have increased the cost of the game. But it would have definitely been a better game if they had just copied and pasted the entire dialogue of the movie in whatever form the script was in, and just had more conversation, more dialogue. Make this much more of a visual novel game instead of making this a very grindy, repetitive save scumming game. It violates a lot of the ideas that we see established as kind of firm rules as far as point-and-click adventure games from LucasArts follow in later games. And then, I don't think this was like one of the very first LucasArts point-and-click adventure games. There's definitely things like Hugo's House of Horrors and Maniac Mansion, so that they were trying different things here, not just experimenting because they didn't know what they were doing. Oops. Let's see. You chose poorly. Okay, let's look at the Grail Diary. Challenges will number 3. First, the breath of God, only the penitent man will pass. Second, the word of God, only in the footsteps of God will he proceed. Third is the path of God, only a leap from the lion's head will prove his worth. Alright, so let's look at each of these. Now this is the cup of a carpenter. 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 Interesting. So it's either this one or this one apparently. And we saw the picture in the vault. And maybe that's the only hint you got in the entirety of this game as far as which cup is the right cup. But definitely a weird experience that you're having here. You're not gonna get it right on the first try, even if you play the game perfectly. Or perhaps I've glitched the game in some way and really messed this up. It would be kind of crazy if it turned out that we tried every single cup and none of them were right. Give Grail to the knight. Nope. See, this guy apparently enjoys watching people fail too. Because he clearly would have known, or you would have thought he would have known, which one was the Grail. Let's see. So, seriously, it's not this plain metal cup. Did I possibly click on something different? Maybe they do just randomize it. It'd be very weird if the ScumVM emulator is just failing. Okay, what about this brass chalice inscription in Greek? Or this pewter chalice with Aramaic inscription? We'll start doing the chalices, I guess. Yeah. It's nowhere as impactful as the end of the movie. Because you just don't have that characterization and that character development that you would expect to have had you actually watched the movie. And would have definitely been fairly repetitive. to play this game right after watching the movie, and it would have been fairly repetitive to play this game and then watch the movie. So in a weird way, this is kind of a great example of how movie-based video games just don't work, and people should either go completely off the rails and give a different experience completely, or they should consider something different. Alright, well, is this a dented shallow pewter bowl with an engraving? We got that. You know, and did we ever do the large ceramic drinking cup? I don't know. Should try that next. Yeah, I wouldn't have minded had this really started in the same place but gone in very different directions. You could have had Elsa not be a Nazi at all, have her reveal that she's actually a spy for America. You could have had them go different places to get different pieces of evidence to end up in the same place, and even when they ended up in this final cave, you could have found that there would have been completely different puzzles. And this could have very easily been an alternate reality take on the Last Crusade. You could have gone much deeper into Arthurian legend. You have chosen wisely. But remember, the Grail cannot pass beyond the Great Seal. That is the price of immortality. Why? No one knows. But even if that's the case, you could have easily reported on it. What happened to Donovan? And don't say don't ask. He was so eager to follow you, he just lost his head. So he's just out of the picture. And you don't get the gory death scene that he had in the movie. Also, apparently drinking from the cup only lengthens your life a small amount. And so you have to constantly drink from it. Also in the movie, he poured some of that down his father's throat. The Grail. You did it, Junior. No, Dad, you did it. I just followed your diary. And the third brother still alive? Yes, even after 7 centuries. Then it does grant immortality. All these years, my quest is at an end. I don't even know what a father would want to live forever. But you found it, son. Its destiny should be decided by you, I guess is what that said. Marcus, my old friend, I haven't thanked you yet. And they just walk off. Perfectly fine. And then remember the price of immortality. The Grail cannot pass beyond the Great Seal. Elsa, no. The Grail must remain here. But Indy, the Grail, it can be ours. You heard the knight. It cannot pass beyond the seal. No, I don't believe it. I won't lose it now. It's not like Indy and Elsa even had much of a romantic experience even in the movie. Like, she really got poorly written. I think you might argue that Steven Spielberg's not particularly great at writing female characters in general. Nice going, Elsa. Let's see, is there anything else to do? There's a cracked seal. And there's the knight. Like, the knight this whole time could have been standing at this temple preaching to people and proselytizing, but apparently he doesn't care about that. Instead, he's just secretly guarding the Grail for no real reason. I mean, you could have just left it and buried it in the mountain. So, can't talk to anybody. So you either go to the cracked seal, and look at it. And then you get another scene here where you could try and go for the Grail, or you can leave it. And if you try to pick up the Grail, it's too far to reach from here. Use the whip with the Grail. So then if you tried, I imagine, to walk even further, you would die somehow. The whole ground just opens up and eats you. Junior, why didn't you listen? Don't call me Junior. See, that's kind of funny. So your final score is 294, a series of 942, which neither one of those say that are labeled as particularly good. They're just labeled as not bad, which is a pretty pathetic final score, with no explanation whatsoever as to what gave you score. I give you my thanks. I see you have indeed the heart of a true knight. But now you must go. I fear I have a Herculean task before me. Now where is that broom? And so he's just going to rebuild the temple with all these booby traps. And he seems to be more than happy to have all the booby traps killing people. That was just a noble thing you did, Junior. Don't call me Junior. What is it, all this Junior talk? That's his name. Henry Jones Jr. I like Indiana. We named the dog Indiana. We named you Henry Jr. Come to think of it, my father had a cat named Marcus. Enough, let's go home. I think I'll start a Dead Sea Scrolls diary. Everybody follow me, I know the way. And see, they never even played on the idea that Marcus was just this comedic relief, incompetent boob. No, that's not right, and he always gets lost. Like, they kind of mentioned that, but it's not really true. So we get a final score of 369. So the score just goes massively up, which is good for the episode. And then 477 for the series. And then you get music on the credits, and you definitely can tell that they really put a lot of effort on the intro credits and the outro credits, and then the middle of the game could have used a lot more of that development time and that budget. They call it the Scum story system, and yet this is probably one of the worst Scum games as far as story is involved. Well, with the exception of some of the kids' games, those stories are practically non-existent or terrible. Quite a lot of people worked on this game compared to indie games of modern times, or even point-and-click adventures not developed by LucasArts during the same time period. But yeah, based on a screenplay and an original script by a couple of people. Then they had Sam & Max as a homage. Movie also available from Paramount Pictures, a Lucasfilm Games production. Which this is before they changed Lucasfilm Games into LucasArts completely. The end. In order to acquire the proper recording of your series IQ points, you must now bring up the save load screen and select load. This will save your correct series IQ. So what? Load and do what? There's no auto load. But we have no idea what IQ points are. We don't even know, so Like this is all stuff that would have been in the manual certainly, but the manual has long since been forgotten. And yeah, I'm sure the Steam store doesn't fully explain all this. And I hardly would want to play a game like this with a walkthrough. Although it might be a little helpful in some places if you hadn't ever played the game before. You also only have the experience that you have based on the fact that you're going to fail and that you're going to have to save scum and come back to it. And generally, this is not what I like in point and click adventure games. I don't like the ability to die. I don't like having things that are really impossible to figure out. I don't like the idea that at the beginning of this game, had you collected the painting and the fake diary, you could have skipped entire sections of the game, which maybe gave you more IQ points, but do you want more IQ points, or do you want to actually see the art and the dialogue, what little there is, as shown in the game? How many IQ points did I get when I found that secret little alcove with text in the sewers? How many IQ points did I get when I opened the vault and saw the picture of the Grail? Was the picture of the Grail really a picture of the Grail that I picked up at the end? I don't think it was. How many IQ points did I lose every time I beat somebody up? Or did I get IQ points every time I beat somebody up? Ideally, if you were going to have a boxing system, you kind of would like a RPG system where he got stronger and we could have boxed at the beginning and grinded up and started the game with like a level 5 boxing ability, and then that would have helped us a lot along the way. Or you could have just given us more health packs, and then that would have also been useful. It's very possible that there are entire scenes, entire dialogues, entire conversations that we missed, and that almost no player ever would see, because you'd have to figure out every single correct dialogue path. Unlike usual point-and-click adventure games where you just can click on every single dialogue choice and you'll eventually get down to the right path as far as your dialogue choices. When you're being stopped by the guards in the Nazi castle, for instance, you couldn't just grind out there and figure out what you needed to say to escape, not without saving and loading and saving and loading. Overall, this is a 2.5 hour game that will take you probably 6 hours to play, and I just don't see a real reason for that at all. Let's see, if I was to then load, and then we'll just make another load here, what are you supposed to figure out? Because there's like game menu F5, skip was escape, skip line, predictive input, dialogue was dash. Like there's not really any buttons here. Help is not gonna really do anything. Music volume up and down with the brackets. Text speed slower and faster with minus and plus. But yeah. Show hide console, start the debugger. Run in fast mode with Control F, run in really fast mode with Control G. Would there have been a different possible way to slow down the game? No. Not really. See, here's the idea of just every button telling you what to do. And even that's not really helpful. But what you don't have as an opportunity is even a way to start a new game. You would have to return to the launcher and then load back from that point. And there's really not much more to say. It would be definitely a mistake to never have played Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but I would say for modern people in a modern time, play it once, probably have a walkthrough handy, and don't be surprised if you have to save a lot and save scum a lot. So save, save, save. That is oddly a feature that's missing in Scum VM is just an autosave ability. And then move on to Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. You will almost certainly play Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis 3 different ways, uh, 3 different times in a row, because the paths and the different solutions are way better designed there. There is a action path, a intelligence path, and then kind of a co-op path that you are put on at the end of the first act in Fate of Atlantis, which really makes it a great experience to play it 3 times. And then for me personally, I've never played the Infernal Machine or the other Indiana Jones games, so I'm somewhat eagerly anticipating playing them, but also you have that problem of how many Indiana Jones games in a row do you want to play, or do you need to play one and then wait 3 or 4 months and then play the next, and then over the course of about a year, maybe then you would have played all 4 of the Indiana Jones games, which I think all 4 of them are available on Steam. If people told me they wanted to give The Last Crusade a pass, I wouldn't be amazingly upset about that. You can also see that even LucasArts gave the Ark of the Covenant and the Temple of Doom a pass as far as making games around them. Um, and yeah, the level of quality for those for games like that probably wouldn't have been great. What they really would have been nice, though, I will end this series saying it would have been very, very nice if there were fans out there who tried to remake this game somewhat, but then put a lot of spin on it, frankly, and included the 2 previous movies to it. But almost certainly Disney would shut that down at this point. And I think for a brief moment there was a fan project to make a new Indiana Jones point and click adventure with this kind of pixel graphics. At a certain level, you can have this pixel graphics, but they need to be very, very polished. And at a certain point, the pixel graphics probably are better off just being tossed to the wayside and having 3D graphics. Um, you could easily take the general concepts of what you do in this game and make them be anchor points and throwbacks for people who are nostalgic, and then add a ton of other gameplay around it to the point where a remake of Last Crusade would be unrecognizable compared to the old game. And that would suit the general audience of Indiana Jones fans, assuming there are still Indiana Jones fans after the Crystal Skull movie fairly well flopped. And in all fairness, I think Indiana Jones had pretty well died as far as its fandom even before the Crystal Skull movie came out. Uh, but yeah, you could definitely make a remake, and you could definitely still have it be mostly a point and click adventure. You could even experiment with having boxing as long as it's a lot easier, as long as the puzzles are more breadcrumbed. Uh, but the more the new content gets added to a theoretical remake in a game that is so lacking and so old as this, the better. And it really is kind of a great example of where a lot of these planned remakes of things like System Shock have to work really hard and think about what the real goal is and who the real audience is and how that final product is going to look, because remaking something like System Shock does not work if it's just going to be the exact same level design and the exact same maps with improved graphics. and the exact same gameplay mechanics. The gameplay mechanics need to be tweaked and improved to a modern sentimentality. The levels need to be bigger and better designed and more detailed. And by that point, you don't have something that is just a visual upgrade. You have something much closer to what the Doom 1 game looks like compared to the 2016 Doom reboot game looks like. Uh, and even in all fairness of that, the Doom reboot game, while it was very well received, it still kind of lacked as far as level design and just general length. There was a lot of linear hallways in the Doom reboot. Anyways, that's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.